I met my husband, I was at a point in my life where I was no longer really excited about love or expecting to meet the one. Not saying that I didn't want to meet the one. I just was not expecting the dates that I was going on to really lead to anything, but I knew that if I wanted to meet a man, that I had to go on dates. So I just lost that like excitement over it. I wasn't necessarily tired of dating. I was just at a point of like whatever. And I feel like that attitude is what positions me to meet my husband. So I'm going to get more into that on this Healing Sundays episode. A lot of you have been asking, how did I meet my husband? How did I know he was the one? And wanting more details on that. So let's get into the details. I met my husband on Tinder. This was like 10 years ago. I don't know how Tinder is now, but I met him there. I remember I had came out of like 2 bad toxic relationships that I talk about in my book, Toxic X Chronicles John. The second book is being worked on and coming out this year. But anyway, I met on Tinder and I was swiping. And I had met a few guys on there and they just went nowhere. And I remember I talked to a guy for like a month on there, really liked him, thinking it was going to go somewhere, but I had a feeling that it wasn't because something was off. I talked more about that on my podcast episode that was released Thursday on commitment versus consumption. I met that guy. It didn't go anywhere, and it really hurt me, disappointed me. And at the point, I was like, you know what? I'm tired of this. So I deleted the Tinder app. I actually deleted it for like a month, and just really was like into myself and just doing me. And was just like, that app is like, ugh. I was just so disgusted with the app because I haven't met anyone that was decent. And so something told me to re-download and try again. It was like a month. Something told me to just try again. And so I re-downloaded the app and I was just on there just looking through. I decided to change the age bracket back by 1. I was 29 at the time and I had the age bracket set for like 28 up on upward to like 34, 35, something like that. Because I really wanted someone older than me. I don't know. That's just something that I just really wanted. I didn't want a man younger than me because I didn't think he would be mature enough. But something told me to change that age bracket back by 1. So instead of 28, I changed it back to 27. And then some different guys came up and I was swiping and I came across my husband's profile, right? Profile was blank, y'all. It just had his pictures, no information at all. And I'm like, and he had the nerve to super like me. I don't know if super like is still on Tinder, but yes, he super liked me. And I'm just like, so he liked me, but I don't know anything about him. And I almost swiped left because he didn't look like the typical guys that I went for. He was not ugly. He just didn't look like the typical guys that I went for. I'm like, I want something a little different. But I'm like, that's what got me hurt before is leading with, I want him to have a physical certain type. And so I'm like, whatever. Because like I said, I'm at this point of like, whatever now. So he super liked me. I decided to swipe right. And we matched. So we were talking in the app. And I'm like, okay, he's cool. Good conversation. We just having basic conversation. I didn't have any butterflies. I wasn't super excited about him. I was just like, I'm talking to a guy. Okay. And so he ended up saying, I like you want to exchange numbers and we talk outside of the app. I'm like, okay. And I'm realizing looking back that he did a lot of the leading in the beginning. And I was just like, okay. And I guess it's because I was at that point of like, I don't care anymore. But I think you have to be at that point of not caring anymore so that you can let the guy lead and so that you can see his true intentions and so that you're not like swayed by just chemistry or swayed by sweet words and whatnot. And so, we had good conversation and so he planned the date and we went on the date and the date was nice. And I remember I was just sitting there like, whatever, I usually don't order like anything that's messy on a date because I was always trying to look presentable for the guy and I didn't want to make a mess of what I was eating. It's not this date. I ordered some hot wings and a big old margarita drink. And I was just sitting there eating the wings and my little blue cheese dressing. And he was like, "Oh, you like blue cheese? Most people don't like blue cheese." And I was like, "Yeah," but I'm like, whatever. And so I'm just eating my wings, not really caring. And we having a good conversation though. I mean, a big old drink. And I enjoyed myself on the date, surprisingly. And I remember y'all walking in, he like held the door for me. It wasn't like for show. It was almost like it was second nature. He just walked ahead and just opened the door. And I'm like, oh, that's nice, you know? And then he pulled out my chair and he stood and remained standing until I sat down. And I'm like, that's only something I've seen in like movies. And I know y'all may be thinking, oh, that's bare minimum. But hold up now. Something I want to insert here is that the small things matter in the beginning, because a man should not be doing these big old grand gestures. That's usually high intensity, and that's usually just a cover up of who he really is. And so the small things matter. Yes, it's bare minimum, and no, I'm not saying I'm going to go to bed with this man because he pulled out my chair. I'm just like noticing it. So anyway, I got that clear. So the fact that he pulled the chair out and the way he just stood there like so gentlemanly. And he's so chivalrous and so chivalrous. That's what it was. He was very chivalrous, and he just stood there waiting. And at first, I didn't know what was going on. They're like, "Oh, he waited for me to sit down." So I sit down, and then he went to his chair and sit down. And 10 years later, he still does that. By the way, waits for me. He pulls my chair out, waits for me to sit down. Then he sits. I love that. But anyway, and so I'm like, okay, this is nice. And then upon leaving, I had some wings left over. Without me asking or anything, he went and grabbed the to-go container and walked out with me. And I'm like, it's like those little things that really stood out, because it made me feel like he was being thoughtful and considerate. That's how it felt in the beginning. That's how I feel like thoughtfulness and consideration looks like in the beginning. Because in the beginning, he's not going to be doing these grand things, or he shouldn't be. You're not going to be able to really tell, but you can tell by the small thing that he does, is what I'm trying to say. And so the way that he did those things really, like, it really etched in my mind, like, okay. And he's actually a real gentleman. None of it felt for show. None of it was verbalized, if you will. It was just like done. And so, and he still does that to this day as well. If I have a to-go container, he just grabs it for me and carries it out for me, even with his own to-go containers. And I just love that. It's like he's always considerate of me. And so that date went well, and I'm still like, okay, I guess. Like, he's nice. He's not bad looking. He's a little smaller than I like, a little shorter than I like. He was taller than me, but a little shorter and a little smaller, and I'm just like, I guess he's nice, but no butterflies, And so then, fast forward, he plans 2 more dates in that same week. And the second date, we went to go play pool and had drinks. And on the second date, y'all, he showed up with like this t-shirt on that said "Bye Felicia" on it and some black Chucks. And I'm like, I would like a man to dress a little better, but I'm like, does that really matter? And so I'm just like, still just getting to know him, like, okay. But I'm like, he's nice though. I guess I got into a point in my dating journey where small things like that just didn't matter that much anymore. I noticed it, and I was like, I would like a man to dress a different way, like a man to have a thicker build. I'm like, does that matter when it comes to me feeling safe and secure with the man and being treated genuinely good and just having a kind man, a man that considers me? None of that really mattered. And so it was new for me, but I was getting used to it. I'm like, well, he is very nice to me, and he's genuinely nice. I'm liking how he's treating me. I'm liking the consistency he's like actually planning things and putting forth intention. And so I'm like, I like him, but I didn't have the butterflies. And so I'm like, I don't know what this is. It's this weird feeling, because when you've gone through toxic relationships that start off very intense in the beginning, you have a lot of butterflies. But those butterflies are usually just anxiousness. And on the second date, we did kiss after it. And I liked the kiss. But it was like, it still didn't have any butterflies. But I liked it. It was so weird. So I'm telling you, if you don't have butterflies, but you find yourself liking this guy, just keep getting to know him. You're in a safe space then. And I'm like, I like him. The kiss was nice. He can kiss. But I'm like, why am I not excited and butterflies? Like, so, but I was intrigued. So I kept seeing him, kept talking to him. Third date was the same week. We went to a house party and I met some of his friends, and his friends were cool. And they were like, and they had like drinking there and pizza there. And so I remember I mixed like dark and clear or something. So I got like super drunk. Wasn't trying to be super drunk. Didn't think I would get super drunk, but I was. And like, oh my gosh, I'm drunk. And so he like, go sit down on the couch. So he set me down and he had his arm around me, just like holding me and like patting me and like you need some water, you need something to eat. He was just so caring. On the third date. This was just the third date. And I'm like, and I'm half drunk, but he just saying all these like little nice things to me and trying to soothe me and stuff. I'm just like, hey, look at him. I'm half drunk, but I'm like, not half drunk. I am drunk. And so, and he was like, you hungry? I was like, yeah. And so, come to find out, the microwave was broken down at this house party. So, he had to put the pizza in the oven to heat it up for me. I told him, just bring the pizza to me. You don't have to heat it up. I'm fine with room temperature pizza. I don't feel like waiting. I just need some food to sober me up. And he was like, no, I'm going to put it in the oven. I remember being drunk on that couch and just seeing him running back and forth to check on me. He would run in there to check on the pizza, make sure it's not getting too hot or burning up, and then run back in there and check on me. And it was just the action of seeing him running like back and forth, considering me and taking care of me on the third date. And I'm just like, he's really sweet. I mean, consistent and intentional and having the action. It was just something about seeing, and this is, and keep in mind, this is at a party with his friends. He excused himself from his friends to check on me and tend to me. And just, it's something about seeing him run back and forth between the living room where I was at on the couch and the kitchen where my pizza was in the oven because he wanted to bring it hot to me. He didn't want to bring me he didn't want to have ass. And that told me, like, those small acts told me in the beginning, like, he is going to be considerate and thoughtful of me. He's not going to bring me just no anything. He's not going to have ass with me. Like, yeah, I felt that. My intuition was telling me that this is something right. This is something safe. And something I want to insert here is that the same intuition that tells you that a guy is not right for you is the same intuition that tells you when a guy is right for you. So don't think that your intuition is just for telling you that something bad is coming up. It's also for letting you know when something good is happening. And so my intuition told me, like, this is for real. He's for real. And so that kind of sealed the deal for me. And I knew, like, okay, yeah, this is it. But there are some more things that make me feel safe that I want to get into as well. But before I do that, I want to let my ladies know, this is just a little girl talk. That was the night when we first went all the way, when we first had sex. That night. And the reason being is because I felt safe, but also being that for me, sex is not something that I seal a deal on and say, okay, now we're in a relationship. For me, how can I put this lightly? For me, I need to understand sooner than later that we are sexually compatible, if that makes sense. Because I had like an instant in my past dating life before him where I was trying to be celibate, then I decided to not be celibate for this guy, and thank God I did, because we were not sexually compatible is all I'm going to say. It was bad. And I'm not going to get into many details on that. I may eventually. But, yeah. And so, for me, having sex when I feel safe with a man, when I feel like he's not just love bombing me, when I feel like he's not just there for the chemistry and to consume me, if you will, when I feel like he actually, like, wants something real with me, that's when I decide, okay, now I feel like I want to have sex with you, because I need to make sure that that's also in place before I go too far with you. And I realize we're not sexually compatible, because not everything can be worked out sexually. And so, third date, that's when that happened. And like a month later is when we were in a committed relationship. And we became committed because I feel like he needed to know what to call me when he was introducing me to others, or how to introduce me to others, if you will. I remember that we had went to this Christmas party that he had with his job, and when we were there, he was trying to introduce me, and he was like he didn't know what to say. And I can tell that it was like he didn't like how it was making him feel. You know, he didn't want to just call me my friend. He didn't want to just say, this is my friend, Kendall. So he was just like, this is Kendall, you know, introducing me like that. And I could tell that he was uncomfortable with saying friend, so he just said my name. And so later on that night when we got back to my place, he was like, I want to call you my girlfriend. Do you want to be my girlfriend? And I'm like, yeah. It was just like that. It was so sweet. And I'm like, he actually asked me to be his girlfriend. And I could tell that he was like, I don't know what to call her, but I want to call her my girlfriend. I want to make this official. And so we made it official a month after. And yeah, that's that. That's how we met. That's how it went. Now, I want to get a little bit into like the deeper parts. So here are some insights on how I knew my husband was safe to continue seeing in the beginning. The one thing I want to preface with saying is that how I knew my husband was safe and how you can also know a man is generally safe is if they make you feel better about the things that once used to make you feel anxious. And I'll go into more detail about what I mean by that, by the examples that I'm going to give. The first thing I would say is how he respected my boundaries. And that's something that used to make me feel anxious before. And when I say boundaries used to make me feel anxious before, it's because I was really new to setting boundaries. And so that means I was anxious when I had to set a boundary. But when an instant came up that I had to set a boundary with him, I was anxious about it. And I was thinking that, okay, this is going to be the end of us. He's not going to want to talk to me anymore because most men don't respect my boundaries. I was anxious to do it, but I did it. And he made me feel safe with setting that boundary. There was no pushback. His interest in me was still the same. He didn't change his pursuit of me. And so although I was afraid to set boundaries, I also knew that in order for me to know if a man is safe, I'm going to have to do the thing that I'm scared to do in order to know if that man is truly safe for me or not. So an example here is the third date that I actually mentioned before. We were going to the house party and he asked me if he could meet at my house and we ride together to the party from my house. But I'm thinking to myself, I'm just getting to know this man. I'm not sure if I'm ready to have sex with him. So I don't want a man coming to my house to get the wrong impression that I'm open to that. So that was a boundary that I had. And so I knew that I was going to have to say this boundary to him because I didn't want to get in the habit of not expressing my needs, not expressing my boundaries, and being more scared of losing that man than losing myself. And so I'm like, I'm going to have to set the boundary. I'm going to have to speak up and say something. I was nervous and I was anxious because I'm like, it's new to me about setting boundaries, but I'm like, I'm going to have to do it. And so I'm thinking in my head, yep, he just wants to come to my house. He just wants some. He's already trying to get over here. I already know this is not going to go well, but I'm going to have to speak up, set the boundary anyway. So I'm like, sent the text like, hey, I don't feel comfortable with you coming to my house just yet, but I can meet you at the party. I said something like that. And he was just like, okay, I'll meet you there. I'll see you there. And I'm just like, oh, that's it? I thought for sure he was going to do like pushback or like, oh, please, come on, I just want to do this. Or I just want to meet you there or it'd be easier. I thought sure he was going to push for more or push for his way. He did not even a little bit. I'll meet you there. And I was just like, I'm like, okay. So that was also another sign like, okay, I like him. I'm feeling safe already. And so got to the party and it was like, as I said already, he was still caring, still nice, still considerate, still liked me the same. He didn't bring up the boundary or he didn't say anything on it. It was just like nothing. It was just like, okay, I respect the boundary, and went on about the date. And so that made me also feel like that he was someone that was possibly emotionally available and emotionally safe. And I say possibly because it was just one instant and I was still getting to know him. So in order for me to realize that, it had to be consistent, and which it ended up being consistent, of course. The second thing that made me realize he was safe was he was a man of his word. He always did what he said he was going to do, no matter how small it was. If he said he was going to call me the next day, he called me. If he said he was going to text me, he texted me. If he said we were going on a date, we went on a date. He always backed up what he said every single time. He never made me second guess anything, never made me wonder, and never made me second guess what he was telling me. All of his actions lined up with his words. And that made me feel safe because I realized that that's someone that's honest. That's someone that cares about earning my trust. I feel like men that lead with integrity, men that just do what they say they're going to do, and they are, of course, leading with integrity because they are a good man for themselves first. They are a good man of character for themselves first, and they have their own standards that they go by. But they also care about how they're making you feel. And so I felt like with him caring about how he was making me feel, that was his way of considering me. And consideration is directly correlated to how a man will care and love you. But of course, in the beginning, there is no love yet. But I like the way that he considered me in the beginning. It made me feel safe, you know? It made me feel like that this is a man that is caring about earning my trust. This is a man that cares about how he is making me feel. This is a man that's going to be a man of his word because he doesn't want to make me feel confused. He's not that type of guy that he wants to play those games with me. And so the third thing that made me feel safe was that he did not do a lot of excessive compliments. And what I mean by that is, yes, a man can compliment you, but it shouldn't just be solely on how you look. That shouldn't be all he's out there doing. It's just flattering you and saying what he thinks you wants to hear. My husband didn't do any of that in the beginning when we first met. If he did compliment me, it was at a minimum, and he more so showed his interest by his actions, not by his words. And so instead of him telling me what he thought I wanted to hear, he more so was consistent in planning dates and planning time that we would talk on the phone, planning time together, getting to know me. He showed through his actions that he was interested. He didn't do a lot of the excessive compliments. And I realized that after my toxic relationships that made me feel unsafe when men would do that, because I felt like men that did a lot of excessive compliments, they weren't really wanting to get to know me. They were just wanting to benefit from me, to consume me, if you will. And they felt like the quickest way to get there would be to tell me what they thought I wanted to hear. And so they would just do a lot of compliments and say all these sweet, nice things and get their low effort behind the flattery. And I used to fall for that. And after I would fall for that and the chase would be over, I realized that that's when I began to feel unsafe and unworthy and not good in that relationship. So I said I wasn't doing it anymore. And so with my husband, it was never that. He was always just about action. And it was never a lot of excessive compliments. And that made me feel safe. That made me feel like that's someone that really wants to get to know me and really values me beneath the surface. I felt like that once the tough parts came in, once the difficult things came in, he was not going to run because he was there for all of me. So that made me feel very safe. And those were the top three things that made me feel safe with him. And I guess moving into some of the difficult conversations we had always led to the relationship growing. I feel like that conflict resolution is highly important. That's how also I knew that he was the one, because I liked how he met difficult conversations with me with understanding and wanting to change whatever needed changing, and wanting to provide what I needed. If I brought up something I needed, it was met with, okay, I can do that. I can change that. I can do better with that. And he always held himself accountable. And that's what made me feel like, okay, he's safe as well. And so there were really a lot of instances where we had difficult conversations and it always came out better. They were hard. And sometimes I wanted to run, fight or flight mode that I had still from previous bad relationships and my upbringing and all of that. But we always worked through it. After I would come down and he would come down, we would come and have a real conversation. And I love that. I had to change how I was coming to disagreements, if you will. You can check out my video, Healthy Relationships Can Be Triggering. That's a little farther down, but I talk more about that in depth as well there, about how I was triggered a lot and how I needed to check my triggers in order to communicate with him better, because he was ready to communicate, ready to resolve the conflict, but I could be passive. I could be like, well, we could just break up, all of that. And that was not the right way to go about doing that. So once we got past all that, it was great. But yeah, I guess to move it forward a little bit, we got married after 6 years of dating. And so, to a lot of people, I know that they want to be married like after the first year or two. I never really wanted to. I thought I did, but then once we had a discussion about marriage and what he felt like he wanted to provide and bring to the marriage, it made me realize that he doesn't want to just offer me just anything. He doesn't want to be married just to be married. He wants to make sure that he is financially stable and can offer me a great marriage. And once I understood that, and I realized that he wasn't just trying to run for marriage, and I seen how he was actually working towards that. He always knew he wanted to marry me, and I feel like he knew that early on because we talked about it early on, like within the first year. But he wanted to be prepared. He wanted to be the best husband. He was just moving up on his job, and we had just got a place together after a year of dating. And so he didn't want to be married in an apartment still. He wanted to like pay off debt. He wanted to have something to bring to a marriage. He didn't just want a wife. He wanted to be a husband. And so once that was made perfectly clear to me, I was okay with waiting because I knew that it was leading to marriage. And plus, when we were living together, I wasn't like a live-in wife. I Before we moved in, I set ground rules like this is not going to be that. And he was okay with that. I told him that, I'm not going to be doing all the cooking and cleaning on my own. I also work a job. I feel like it's only fair that those things are split, that, we both pitch in with that. It's only fair. I'm like, I don't feel like it's fair that I go to work, come home, and have to do more work and you don't. And he agreed. He understood. And to this day, we're still like that. We still have that same understanding. It's both of us. I'm not doing wifely duties. It's both of us taking care of our home. We're coming up on like our 4-year wedding anniversary. Actually next year. That's in April. So we've been married for 3 years. And when people say marriage is hard, I feel like it's only hard if you didn't take the time to get to know who you are marrying before you married. I feel like it's hard if you married just to be married. And also, yes, there can be some things that come up in a marriage that can be difficult. But if you're with the right partner where you have great conflict resolution skills, it won't feel so hard. And I also feel like some women say it's hard because they're doing all the labor, all the work. I refused. And that's why I'm not so ashamed that I waited to 36 to get married. Well, actually, I'm not ashamed at all because I'm like, I needed time for my standards to grow. I needed time for my non-negotiables to be set. And it's like I grew a lot. And by the time I was 36, I knew what I wanted in a marriage and what I didn't want and what I wasn't going to do. And I wasn't going to do the traditional sense of being a traditional woman. And I knew I didn't want to be a traditional wife. And I wasn't going to do that. I'm not going to be the wife that just does all the cooking and cleaning and all the labor and the man does nothing but just goes to work and come home. I knew that's not what I wanted. It was never any pushback on that. He didn't want a traditional woman. He wanted me for me. And like I said, most of all, he wanted to be a husband. And so I feel like it's very important, ladies, that you marry a man that wants to be a husband, not a man that just wants a wife. So that's pretty much in a nutshell how we met, how we got together, how we married, how our relationship went. Yeah. And I feel like the beginning really set the tone for our relationship and then our marriage. I picked up on the small things. Don't sleep on the small things that a man does in the beginning. It's not bare minimal, or maybe it is bare minimal, but it's not there to just sell you on him right away and like, yep, he's the one. But the small things lead to bigger things. Because in the beginning, you're both just getting to know each other. It shouldn't be any really big things yet anyway. And so it's very important that you pay attention to those small details because it's going to tell a bigger story and a bigger picture is what I've realized. And yeah, that's how we met. Oh, and also something I want to throw in is I did have a little prayer that I said before meeting my husband. my prayer, I don't know verbatim, but it more so went along the lines of, God, I am just tired of meeting the same type of men that don't really want anything real, that aren't nice to me, that aren't good to me. I just want a genuinely nice guy. I want a guy that wants commitment like me. I want a guy that's spiritual like me. And then I started to more so say, like, it doesn't matter so much how he looks as long as I'm attracted to him, God. Like, I know that I led with that before. Like, I wanted a man to be a certain height, certain build. And I'm like, those things just aren't that important. I just want a good man, a good guy that's going to be genuinely good to me. And I said, I know. And then at the end, I was like, God, I know I said that looks didn't matter as much, but can he at least have a beard? And my husband has a beard, and his beard has really flourished. When I first met him, it was there, and it had a little hang time, if you will, but it wasn't as thick and full as it is now. Something I want to add, ladies, it is important that you consider that the man that you are dating for marriage is going to be the man that is there through the difficult times, through the challenging times, through death of friends and family members, death of a pet, through financial crisis, through the things that go on in the world. Like, you have to understand that you must choose your partner wisely. Don't just choose any man because he's tall or he is attractive or he has the build that you like. Don't choose it just based off of that. Yes, be attracted to him. You must be attracted to him. But I realize that some things are more important than that, And I also realized that certain things like a man's physical appearance will change over time. If you are looking for a long-term commitment in marriage, looks are going to change over time. And that's also what made it not so important. And also with how a man dress. Like, it is important to understand that a man can change how he dress. His looks can change. But his personality and his character, those are things that are not going to change. Those are things that are more than likely already conditioned in him and his patterns. Those things are more difficult to change. And so how I started looking at it is like, a man can change his shoes, a man can change his shirt, a man can even change his facial hair, his hair on his head. A man can change those things, but a man cannot change how he treats me if he's set on treating me the way he is in the beginning. A man cannot change his patterns overnight. A man cannot change his character. So that made me realize that it's more important that a man has good character and that he's just genuinely nice to me. And lo and behold, my husband dresses way better now because he has more money now too as well. So I guess he said that that's his reasons why he was wearing Chucks and a t-shirt in the beginning, because he couldn't afford much. He had just gotten a new job, and so he was new on the job, and he was just still establishing himself when I met him. And keep in mind, he was 27, so that was him establishing his career, which he has now. So he has way more money now, so he can dress better now, and also his beard is thicker now. He's also thicker as well. So yeah, looks can change. And he is even more handsome to me than when I first met him. Like, for sure. And so I'm just glad that I swiped right. I really am. I almost swiped left. And every time I say that, you're like, well, that would have been your loss. And it would have been. Because I'm the happiest that I've ever been. I am the safest I've ever been. I feel just good. And that man, y'all, has my back. Like, I could sit here all day and give you examples all day long. He has my back. And he has shown that countless times. Like, nobody is going to fuck with me. He's not going to allow it. Like, that's all. It's been so many times. And he is so supportive of my dreams as well. That's also important. Almost forgot. So supportive of my dreams. He's the one that got me my first computer. I was writing my book on my iPhone. My very first book, Toxic X Chronicles. That was being written on my iPhone. He got me a computer. A MacBook, too. Got me my first camera. Everything. He's always been so supportive of what I needed. Like, always. Always been there. And it's 10 years later and it's still the same. The love hasn't changed. It's only grown. Um, Something else that you all asked before is what is like our financial arrangement. I'm not going to go into too much detail about that because that's our business, but just understand that he makes more, so he pays more. That's never been an issue. And I don't like having that 50-50 conversation, but I will say this: do what works for you. Have your own standards, have what you want. Um, that's all I'm going to say. I'm not discussing it further because I hate the 50-50 conversation. It's just so unnecessary. And I hate that this our discourse in the black community around marriage. It's the 50-50 conversation. 50-50 is not even that big of a deal. What is a bigger deal is if you're doing it all alone or if that man is not contributing at all. My husband makes more, so naturally he pays more. He pays the bigger bills. And I take care of my smaller bills. And I take care of, like, if we want to go out sometimes, I'm usually the one that has money set aside for vacations and going out. That's just how we do things. But if it ever come a time when finances are tight, then it may have to be 50-50 sometimes. Things change. What matters most is that we get the shit done, we get the shit paid. That's what I like more. And he's an ambitious, hardworking man. That's what matters the most to me. But yeah, that's pretty much all I have for this Healing Sunday episode. I hope that can help my ladies to understand what it is like to be in a healthy relationship and what it's like to date a healthy man in the beginning and how you can understand how a man is safe, because I understand how difficult it can be to go from bad and toxic relationships and moving into a healthy one and trying to stick to your standards and trying to make sure he's safe, trying to make sure he's right. I know that it can be difficult, and especially when the butterflies aren't there because the man is so safe, you're not feeling anxious and you're not feeling the butterflies. I get it. So I hope this episode helped you to feel more confident in dating and to always stick to your standards. Always stick to your non-negotiables. Stick to what you want. Don't change what you want. Don't lose yourself in the man. Okay? Okay. But that's all I got for this Healing Sunday episode, girlfriends. Until the next one, peace out.